بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا رب العالمين. We are continuing now with our second lesson with this book from the Transient shade of the life of this dunya. And in reality, what we are studying here is the pinnacle of Aqeedah. It's the pinnacle of La ilaha illallah, because Allah has put us on this earth. He's created the creation so that we may worship Him. And we are placed on this dunya, and the stay here is perpetual. It's going to fade. So what's in store for us? Allah tells us over again to reinforce our iman, Yawm al-Akhir, which is one of the pillars of La ilaha illallah, that there is going to be an everlasting akhirah. And this is the place where you need to construct your houses. This is the place where you need to construct your life, your houses, your vehicles, your clothes, your food, your drink, your spouses. Because in reality, you can't possess something which is about to fade. You can't hold on to dust when there is a wind. So how about something which isn't actually there? How about something which is promised to end? And this is why Allah says in the Quran many, many times that the true mulk, the true possession, is the possession of the akhirah. Allah says in Surah Al-Insan, وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَ ثَمَّ رَأَيْتَ. When you enter looking to Jannah, you will look at Jannah, and then you will look again at Jannah, and it will increase in beauty. But the ayah ends with وَمُلْكٍ كَبِيرًا. This is your true mulk, this is your true possession. And one of the narrations in this book is from Abu Darda radiallahu anhu. And this book, like we said last week, is extremely amazing because it gives us a glimpse into the life of the Salaf and how they saw the dunya. And we also established last week how the Prophet ﷺ said that the beginning of this ummah were the most detached from the dunya. And this is what gave them success, and this is what gave them iman, this is what gave them betterment in al-islah, bi-zuhd wal-yaqeen, the Prophet ﷺ said. So Abu Darda, from that generation, he said, everyone has an imperfection of knowledge and wisdom. Everybody has an imperfection of knowledge and wisdom. Because if his wealth increases, he becomes happy. Though the day and the night are working against him in destroying what he has gained from happiness. So what good is there in wealth that only increases or decreases as his life goes on? You think you have a lot of money in your account, etc., but that's actually decreasing by every single moment that you have an opportunity to spend it. So what is the dunya? This is why Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah said, the more you indulge into the dunya, the more you feel a sense of false happiness. And what that will actually do is decrease you in actual wealth. And this is an issue, unfortunately, that a lot of Muslims have fallen into. And even some of the Tulab al-Ilm. Ibn Qayyim in Madarij Salikin, he said that the shaitan's plots against every single one of us is of 5 types. If he can't get you in one, he'll get you in another one. So what he will do is outright come up to you and give you the belief of kufr and shirk and tell you to accept it. Most people have. كثير من الناس لفاسقون كثير من الناس لكافرون. Allah says in the Quran وأكثرهم الكافرون. Allah says in the Quran over again, most people have given in, they've folded straight away. Shaitan tells them, they bow. The second thing he will do, if he can't get you to fall into shirk, kufr, he will make you leave something which is wajib upon you, so that your connection to Rabbul Alameen can be disconnected. Leave the salah, it's too difficult, just relax. Say La ilaha illallah, that's enough. That's his second plot. If he can't get you on that, and if you win him on that, and you persevere and you have sabr on that, he will tell you to fall into sin. So he can't get you with shirk, he can't get you with leaving a wajib, then he'll tell you to do a sin and give you a false sense of weakness which isn't really there. Inna kayda shaitan kana da'ifa. It's not really there. But if you give it more than its importance, like we said last time, if you give the dunya, if you build upon the dunya, then it will become beautified. If you go back in the stages, then you will see what the dunya actually is, which is dust. If he can't get you with the third one, he'll get you with the fourth one, which is to leave something which is better. He'll tell you to leave something which is better. And then the last one, and this is what I was talking about earlier, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Qayyim rahimahullah said, he will get you in fudul mubahat, indulgence. Let's go to the takeaway, akhi. It's halal. Allah said eat it. Eat to your fill, more than your third. You fancy a drink? Let's go get a drink. You fancy a waffle? Let's go get a waffle. And when you're there, you see some brothers in nicer clothes. Yeah, I'm going to go buy that tomorrow. It's mubah. What's wrong with it? Indulgence after indulgence. And what that will do is it will kill your heart and your attraction to the akhirah. So this is what we are studying in this book. This is, the crux of the matter. And from this has stemmed many different shubuhat inside of outside Islam and outside of Islam. If you don't understand what the dunya actually is, then you'll have so many different shubuhat, and shaitan will try to plot you with one of these five, with these shubuhat. So some people will come and say, why are we created? Dunya is eternal. They don't understand the dunya. Dunya is not eternal. It has a beginning and it will have an end, but your purpose is by coincidence. They don't understand the dunya. And they come with shubuhat. If Allah really exists and He is Arhamur Rahimin, and you say this over again in your Quran, why are your own people being tortured in Burma and Syria? God can't exist. In fact, you guys are the cause of the problem in the dunya. They don't understand the dunya. How can Allah punish a person? He lived for 20 years worshipping other than Allah, but he's going to be punished in the akhirah for eternity. You're telling me your Lord is just? They don't understand the dunya. This is why this topic is from the pinnacle of Aqeedah. And we left it last week where the Shaykh gave a parable between a rich man, how he's revered, and a poor man, how he's belittled. But in the heavens, it's the opposite. And then the Shaykh moves on to talk about the reality of day and night. So he says, oh my brother in Islam, my sister in Islam, life is very short. And the richest person therein is actually poor. You have to wake up from this long sleep and renounce the love of this life. One day, this life will have an end and the hereafter will come forward. And what is once remote, a figment of your imagination, will become close and reality. What you used to see in others, people will see in you. It's the reality of the dunya. A sudden death will come and take you. And even if you're in good health, you will be taken to the bed of your grave. These are the lessons following on another, but we are heedless and lost in our error. This is what the Shaykh said in the introduction of this next bit. And then he quotes the statement of Ibn Iyad, one of the Salaf, rahimahullah. He said, coming to this life is so easy, you had no choice, you don't even remember it. Whereas departing this life is difficult. Coming inside is easy, the exit is difficult. Death is a very critical moment during which the soul is going to be uprooted. No choice, from its very roots that it's embedded in right now, with your love of the dunya, the love of your desires, is going to be taken away from those roots and the mud and the earth that's covering those roots of desires and the love of the dunya, and it will be uprooted. But even if leaving the life of this world is easy for some people, earning for material pleasures and worldly benefits cause distraction. concern, and restlessness. So even if the dunya is easy for you, it's always going to be a place where there is no perfection. There is no perfection. The Prophet ﷺ was tested over and over again in his life. And I think I've probably mentioned this before, but if we look at the context of some of the last surahs, they are placed in a particular manner where some of the ulama have given this exact same meaning. It's not being placed there by coincidence that Al-Qariya comes, then Al-Hakum Al-Takathur comes, then Wal-Asr comes, then Humazah comes, and then Alam Tara comes, and then Quraysh comes. It's not coincidence. This is wahi from Allah, and this is what He perfected. Yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum. It's perfect. Imam Suyuti said that people will be in Al-Qariya, or they will be taken by the Al-Qariya. Death will overtake them. The end of the surah, he says in the middle of the surah, Jalla wa Ala, that some people will have their heavy scales heavy, they'll be successful. وَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ وَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. His place, eternal place, is in the hellfire. But why are his scales light? Allah didn't explain that here. He explained it in the next surah. Al-Hakum Al-Takathur. Your scales are light because you have become clinging onto the dunya and you're competing with one another. Hatta zurtumul maqabir. Kalla sawfa ta'lamun. Then you're going to see the Hawiyah. And then Allah continues with this message and says, this is actually the status of most people. From the first man to the last man. Wal Asr. Every single one of them are going to be in loss because of al-takathur. But what are the characteristics of these people who are in loss? وَيْلُلِّ كُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. Perish, or the hellfire, or curse be upon these backbiters and slanderers. Insan is in loss because of this. But how does he gain this nature? جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدَ. He just lost the dunya and he thinks it's going to last forever. So this is what the member of the Salaf here, Ibn Ayyad rahimahullah, said, that even if you think that the dunya is easy and it comes to you, this is actually the farm for destruction, this dunya. Brother and sister, if the people are satisfied with the life of this world, be satisfied with Allah. If everybody in the whole dunya is happy with the dunya and you are satisfied with Allah, there's nothing wrong with you, my brother. Nothing wrong with you if you don't want to chase the dunya. There's nothing wrong with you if you don't want to wear the latest clothes or follow the indulgences that they fall into. If they are happy with the life of this dunya, be happy with Allah. And if they like the company of heirs and lovers and friends, people of the dunya, then you should be sufficed and happy with the company of Allah. If they seek the friendship of their kings and leaders to obtain honor and prestige, you must seek the friendship of Allah to obtain the true honor and prestige. True friendship is what, like we said before, is nothing that is going to fade away. Now, I'm trying to get this book, summarize this book, and I've missed out bits, but I've decided to keep this particular aspect of the book. Because the Shaykh here is talking about friendships. And now the term of friendship has become extremely loose to the extent that you can have friends for a very long period of your life and maybe even influence your life, but you've never met them before. Me personally, I know loads of them. WhatsApp, Twitter. Some of these people I don't even know what he looks like. I speak to him on a daily basis. The Shaykh here is telling us something which is very, very important, which is that engaging in too much eating, too much sleep, too much communication, and too much speech, Ibn Qayyim says these are the ways to assassinate your own heart. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ كَثْرَةَ الدَّهِكِ تُمِيتُ الْقَلْبِ. The more you laugh, the more part of you dies. And now, these things that we have on our pockets, some people have it literally part of their body now, is designed for you to increase in laughter, is designed for you to increase in indulgences of eating and sleeping and communication. So the more we think that we are advancing, we are actually regressing and killing ourselves. And one of the biggest things that drives us to do this is the idea of popularity and friendship and network and communication. The Shaykh continues and he quotes a poet. And the poet said, "O you who are mindful to death, deceived by vain hopes, you will leave this life within a short time. Your desire to join the good people, your desire to join the good people in the Akhirah, you have that desire, but you haven't taken the provisions to do so." Bilal ibn Sa'd once asked the man, he said, "Do you want Jannah?" He says, "Yes." So then he told him, "Why don't you make tawbah and come with us and perform good deeds?" He said, "Inshallah." So he said, look at the state of man. He wants Jannah, but he says, "Inshallah," to what will cause that Jannah. Don't trust the life of this world and its decorations, because you're not going to stay here. Now you wait to see what will come of you tomorrow or after tomorrow, but hope will betray you. What the Shaykh is saying. Hope will betray you. Your youth will be gone forever, and then you will become an old man. And when you become old, you have no more amusement and you have no more argument. Stagnant. How many old people do we see like that? They don't care about anything anymore. They just want to stay at home. Nothing can make them laugh. Nothing can make them socialize. What? Because the dunya is fading away from them. It's the nature of man. Why do we distract ourselves with the life of this dunya, whereas it is offering the people many pleasures that hide serious diseases in them? The pleasures of the dunya is actually a disease. Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah said, "O man, prepare yourself for the hereafter." Prepare yourself for the hereafter. How are you going to prepare yourself for the hereafter? Give yourself this slogan: obey Allah to the extent of the manner that you need Him. If you need Him a lot, obey Him a lot. If you need Him medium, obey Him medium. If you don't need Him at all, then don't obey Him. And anger Him, but remember this, anger Him to the extent of your patience of the hellfire. Don't look at the sin, look at the one you are sinning against. Don't pick up that cigarette and think, "Oh, this looks tasty." Look at the one you are transgressing against. But on top of that, due to our many imperfections, due to our many ignorances, due to our many negligences, due to our many times that we disobey Allah, how lazy we are, how even when we try to do something good, we don't do it properly. This is how we are as slaves. Allah's mercy and His forgiveness is far greater. Wahib ibn al-Ward, another one from the Salaf rahimahullah, said, "Don't insult shaitan. Don't insult him. Because on one hand you are insulting him, but on the other hand he is your best friend." Why are you insulting shaitan when he's taking you as a friend? Now there's a piece that I wanted to share as a benefit, is that some of the ulama have said, we all know the hadith of entering your house, you say Bismillah. I think this is known to us, we teach our children this. Before you eat, Bismillah. Before you go into a place where there is najasa, Allahumma inni, but there's another narration, Bismik. We name the name of Allah over our food, over every single aspect, so that we have barakah in it and Allah preserves us from the shaitan. The Prophet ﷺ said that a house, if a person enters it, doesn't mention the name of Allah, what happens? Shaitan will follow him. But the wording of the hadith is that the person who enters into his house, he opens the door and says Bismillah, and he closes the door and says Bismillah. What does the shaitan say? He says, La mabit lakum wala asha. Here he has used the plural. He didn't say, I don't have any food tonight, I have nowhere to sleep. He says to all of his friends with him, today guys, we have nowhere to eat and we have nowhere to sleep. Shaitan, if you let him, he will overtake your life with all of his allies. This is why the plural is moved here. If a person is going to come and rob your house, may Allah protect us and preserve the Muslimin, is he going to come by himself? Rarely, very, very rarely. And if he does come by himself, he's going to have a very, very strong friend with him. But he's going to come with companions. He's going to come and overpower you. Shaitan does that on a daily basis. La mabita lakum. For you guys. The Shaykh continues and he says, Shaitan desires and human self-inclination to evil join their efforts. Shaitan calls you to something and your nafs and your desires combine with that message of Shaitan. And he does this to turn away Muslims from their religion by making the dunya fair seeming to him. The dunya fair seeming to him. Now, Allah musta'an, riba houses, normal. You want to get education, get a riba loan, normal. Get a mobile phone, normal. Because the desires and the plots of Shaitan has come and now it's become fair seeming, it's fine. To the extent that I've never seen this before, but you'll have a Muslimah wearing the exact same clothes as somebody in a catalogue, except that she's got hijab on. I've never seen this before. I've been away for a very long time. When I came back, long stuff. Fair seeming. Her desires, Shaitan. But besides this, for us, inshallah, there's khair. Somebody might turn around and say, well, if Shaitan is that bad, why did Allah create him? What's the point? Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah said that there's a lot of khair and a lot of goodness that comes out of evil. From Shaitan, there's immense hikmah. There's many things that we can mention, which should probably have a dars in itself. But he said that if you look at the battle that Shaitan has created for himself, because he is the initiator, what's happened? He's created many pious people. He's created prophets. He's created messengers. It's caused books to be revealed. It's accepted the tawbah of Allah. Allah has accepted the tawbah. Before that, there was no need for tawbah to be accepted. And Allah taught us the best way to worship Him. The Shaykh is saying here, don't let Shaitan make the dunya fair seeming to you. Dear brother and sister, life in this world is like a racetrack. Every single one of us is competing in that race. Some people are competing on horseback, extremely fast. Some people are on a donkey, extremely slow. And other people are on foot, they don't even have a mount. It's the slowest. But the problem is, the dust is too heavy. This is the parable the Shaykh is giving. You're trying to compete, but the dust is too heavy. To allow a distinction between them. Nobody knows who is leading. The dust is too heavy and the clouds of dust are there. So who's winning? Nobody knows. Just because he's got a horse doesn't mean he's winning. When the dust actually finally settles, it becomes who wins the race. It becomes clear who's won the race. But when does the dust settle? What's the parable here? Every single one of us in this dunya, we know our connection with Allah, but the dust will settle on Yawm al-Qiyamah. We are proceeding towards death. Every day our lifespan decreases and our end comes closer. And we remain unmindful, neither attaching importance nor preparing for the day of judgment. We're getting pushed forward, but none of us are preparing. And this is why the ulama have said the summary of Surah Al-Adiyat is this exact same parable. Wal-Adiyat, the steeds of war are running and they are chasing one another. The Muriyat, the sparks from the hooves, Allah swears by them. Allah swearing by the sparks that are coming up from the hooves. Allah loves this. And then Allah swears by the dawn raid. The raid that happens in the dawn. And then He swears by the cloud and the dust and the results of this race and competition for fighting in His sake. But then what happens? إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. Mankind are extremely ungrateful to Allah. And He says, that day, what your hearts conceal will become apparent. So Ibn Uthaymeen, tafsir of this ayah and tafsir of this surah, he said that this life is a life of concealment. And the akhirah is when your heart will be presented in front of everybody. Salama ibn Dinar said, rahimahullah, if you are satisfied from the life of this world with what is sufficient for you, then the minimum is sufficient. If you want something from the dunya, then just take what you need. But if you are not satisfied with what you need, then you will never be satisfied. If you are not satisfied with what you need, the bare essentials, then you will never be satisfied. The Shaykh says, by Allah, owners of great riches and wealth, and the poor and needy are all equal in what they take from this life. A person, he dies a millionaire, and a person who dies with a penny. When the reality occurs, there's no difference, only a shroud. But the difference will occur in their next life, the life of the grave. Either it will be a garden from the paradise or hell hole from the pits of the fire. Shaykh al-Islam, rahimahullah, draws a parable also with the wealth of this dunya. Akramakullah, he said, the wealth of the dunya is like the bathroom. What you need from this dunya is this whole process that you go through once, twice, 3 times a day is the parable of your dunya. You have your breakfast. If you want to indulge, it's going to harm your body and it's going to harm the exiting process. If you have what you need, what is wholesome nourishment and the bare essentials from your breakfast, then this is going to benefit your body. But either way, what's going to happen? You've eaten it and it's gone. And it's turned into something which is foul. This is the parable that Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said is the reality of the dunya. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu said, describing the life in this dunya, it says it has many halal benefits, but you will be questioned about them. But this dunya also have many haram elements which will lead you to the fire. The Shaykh says, we race after. So the Shaykh Ali radiallahu anhu is saying that here now you are racing towards either one of these two tracks. We race after worldly benefits. We fear poverty and desire for collecting the life's ruins, as if we are going to have an eternal life in it. We fear poverty, but we don't fear reckoning. We fear hunger, but we don't fear Allah's punishment. This is the benchmark, my brothers. Real wealth will fade away. And there's a quotation that comes later on, which ties in with what we just said, the statements of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. One of the Salaf, Mashrik ibn al-Ajda, took the hand of his cousin, and he took him to the skip. Took him to where they collect the litter, a garbage dump, and he said, this is the reality of life. People eat, they eat the food, they consume it, and then they throw it away. People wear their clothes, when it's worn out, they throw it away. People shed blood. Women shed blood. At that time, they didn't have what we have today. They used to shed blood on cloth, and they throw it away. This is the reality of the dunya. Yahya ibn Mu'adh radiyallahu anhu said, how poor is man. How poor is man. He fears hell in the same degree he fears poverty. If he feared hell in the same degree that he feared poverty, he will enter Jannah. So, what does that mean? It means that if you fear poverty, you go out and there and work for it. You get yourself a nice job and you prepare yourself. You're not going to fear that poverty. You're not going to taste that hunger once again. You're acting day and night preparing yourself. A poet said, we dispraise time though it is not guilty. The dunya is not guilty. Time is not guilty. And complain about time because sometimes it is vain. Bored. Play a game. Just check your phone. Got nothing else to do. Time is not to blame, he said, this poet. This is what we have committed and we are punished for ourselves. We have committed this action. This is Allah's decree that we are placed here, and it is upon us to show submission and patience. Allah says in Surah Ash-Shams, and the ulama have said that there is no surah in the Quran or any sequence of ayat in the Quran which have more qasam from Allah than Surah Shams. 11 in a row, you will not find that anywhere in the Quran. Allah swears by the sun, the moon, the day, the night. And He continues, He swears by man. But what is the end result? Why is Allah swearing such a lengthy swear, taking such a lengthy oath? 11 in succession. And He swore by time in all of its different forms, sun, moon, day, night. The conclusion, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّى. You purify yourself, you see the dunya for what it is, you prepare for the akhirah, then time will be a favor for you and not be against you. But Allah swears, 11 swears, by the whole universe and that we can see, if you don't purify yourself, look what happened to the people of Salih. That's the rest of the surah. Dear brother and sister in Islam, day and night are stages through which people pass until they come to the end of their last journey. If at that stage, or any stage, you can send provisions forward, then do so. Because soon your journey here will end. And this journey will end suddenly. For every single one of us is going to end suddenly. Nobody has an invitation to death. We proceed in the convoy of those who renounce worldly pleasures and see the caravans of the pious passing by. So how do we see the combination between life in this world and the hereafter, but renunciation and satisfaction? And this is something which actually, if you look at what the Shaykh is saying here, shows you the truthfulness of Islam. This is the only religion which is correct. This is what I was saying before, it's the pinnacle of Tawheed, it's the pinnacle of Aqeedah. Is there any other religion that can give you the tazkiyah that Islam gives you? Is there any religion out there right now telling you, don't work for the dunya, and it's challenging you, don't work for the dunya, work for the akhirah with Allah? That is everlasting. Not possible. There may be some people that claim that they do so, but their actions, clear. You'll find a man with a big turban, bigger turban than any other Muslims, beard, longer beard than any other Muslims, drinking alcohol, mixing with women. listening to music, foul speech, foul transactions. This is piety, this is tazkiyah. Some people distorted their image, distorted their religion. Some people are ignorant of their religion. Tazkiyah and zuhud is salafiyah, like we said before, and salafiyah is the haqq. This is how we know that this religion is correct, just by what we're reading here. Ali ibn al-Fudayl rahimahullah said, I heard my father saying to Abdullah ibn Mubarak, you tell us to renounce the worldly pleasures and be satisfied with the bare minimum, but you going into the market and you buy goods. What's going on? Abdullah ibn Mubarak said, rahimahullah, I do that so I can protect my face and my honor, and this helps me to obey my Rabb. The other man replied, he said, how good if this is an explanation, if only if you realized. He's asking him, how is this piety? How is this piety that you're indulging in the dunya? And he was saying, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, you take from the dunya as much as you need to uphold the correct religion. This is all you need from the dunya, to remove any kind of blame from yourself, and you work for the akhirah. Dear brother and sister, how good is the life in this world if its benefits are legally gained and legally spent? Now the Shaykh is moving on to mention a point that we are not renouncing the dunya because of the dunya. We are renouncing the dunya, and the call of Islam is to not attach yourself to the dunya, because the dunya is going to leave you. It's already warned you about that. Your creator, the one who's created this dunya, has told you that. It's in the manual. It's not going to be there forever. Don't expect it to be there forever. There's another place which is better for you. But use this one, this temporary one, to gain the eternal one. There are many ways to spend legally, giving in charity and orphans and widows, helping needy people and rescue the injured and the sick. Sufyan Thawri rahimahullah said, beware of Allah's wrath in three matters. Now if you look at this, it will give you a concise message. He said, beware of Allah's punishment in three matters. That you neglect some of His wajibat, you become unsatisfied with His decree, and you become angry when something of the dunya doesn't go your way. If you don't realize these three, then the wrath of Allah you are subjugated to. Don't leave any of the wajibat. Be content with the decree of Allah, and don't be angered when something of the dunya doesn't go your way. Why? Number one, when you don't do the wajibat, obviously you're falling into sin, outright sin. If you are unsatisfied, then you will not give shukr, and you will lose the balance that we talked about in Thalathat al-Usul between hope and fear. If you lean towards one side or the other side, or even have no hope and fear, then you will have no iman, as the ulama said. It's like a bird. And if you are angry with not getting something in the dunya, then this will lead for you to open the doors of your indulgence. Forget it. I'm just going to do what I want now. Sufyan al-Thawri is telling us how tazkiyah can organize your life. It gives your life and your actions a purpose and an organization. You go about your daily business, filling those wajibat. Every single moment of your life is balanced between shukr, love and hope and fear for Allah. And you will pursue your dunya, knowing that your master has a better decree for you even if you don't get it. You live your life like that, khalas. Your master will be pleased with you. Livelihoods in this life are distributed by Allah, so you have to accept that without any objection. Whether it is big or small in quantity, whether it remains or passes away, you must accept your share of the life of this world, because it is decided by Allah, it is decreed by Allah. Don't like this decided here that the translator has gone with. Allah didn't decide. And we find this in that English language a lot. A lot of people say, Allah decided something. Brother, did you get married? No, Allah planned something else. Did you Allah decided to do something. Allah doesn't decide. Allah is Alim and Hakim. He knows. Deciding is 60-40, 70-30. And Allah doesn't plan. Allah doesn't need to plan. The idea of plan comes in a negative reaction to those munafiqs who seek to harm the Prophet ﷺ and the rest of the message of Islam. They plan their plots, and Allah plans His plots because He's going to eradicate their plans and plots. Not because Allah is a planner. He's not planning. Decrees, khalas, kun fayakun. And compare, so He's saying here that because Allah has decreed it, this rizq is given to you, Allah has decreed it. And compare yourself to no one who is given more than you. Do not compare yourself to people who are given more than you. Why is that? Ibrahim ibn Ash'ath said, I heard Fudayl ibn Iyad, rahimahullah, from the Imams of the Salaf, he said, man's fear of Allah, your level of taqwa, your level of obedience, your level of worshipping, your level of dua, your level of Quran, dhikr, is equal to the amount of knowledge you have of Him. That makes sense? Makes perfect sense. This is why this is the religion of tazkiyah. If you give Allah respect in yourself, in your knowledge, in your actions, in your consciousness, that will determine your actions. And his renunciation, the Shaykh said, Fudayl said, rahimahullah, that your level of knowledge will determine your actions, and it will determine the level of renunciation of the life of this world. And it will increase your desire for the hereafter. So whoever acts according to what he knows of Allah, Allah will make him successful in what he doesn't know. Do you know the ghaib? Do you know what Allah has prepared for those people who believe? Do you see the angels on top of you right now? Did you see the Prophet ﷺ? Did you see the wahi coming down? The more knowledge that you have of Allah, Allah will make you successful in the belief and the things that you don't know. Even in the dunya. How long will you live? How long are you going to be in your state of health and wealth? And whoever is ill-tempered and disgraces his honor, his religion, and his generosity, then he will be evaded from what he doesn't know. One of the zuhad, the author said, rahimahullah, I know none who has heard of paradise. I've not met anybody who's heard of paradise and hell, except that he spends his life making dhikr of Allah and praying for it and against it, against the hellfire, and in doing good deeds. It's yaqeen. You know it's going to happen. He said, I've not heard of anybody who has heard of this thing except that he's prepared for it. A man said, I weep so much. He said to him, to laugh and admit your sins is better than to weep and feel proud of your deeds. It goes on here. I think we'll leave that bit. Dear brother and sister, whoever remembers death demeans this life. If you remember death, then life doesn't mean anything to you. Whatever you collect of the treasures of this life, you will not enjoy it, because there is a death which destroys pleasures and disperses all the groups. Therefore, the dunya equals pleasure. The dunya equals pleasure. When we're talking about the dunya, we're talking about pleasure. Now, how is that pleasure? Is that pleasure in indulgence, or is that pleasure in making Allah happy? Abu Ubaidah al-Naji, rahimahullah, said, we visited Hassan al-Basri one day, and it was the day that he died. And while he was in that state, he said, you are welcome. Rahimakullah, may Allah have mercy on you, and come in. So they started making dua for him, and they said, oh Allah, give you, mercy and accommodate you and give you a good settlement in the hereafter. Hassan al-Basri said, whilst he was dying, your share of this religion should not be to be heard of people and to be seen by the eyes of people, so that people talk about you and so that people see you. But he said then, how desperate have people become, that they have the haqq with them, but they are not following it in truth and in patience. It's as if, to summarize what he's saying here, I apologize because it's very lengthy. It's what he's saying here is that when you have the haqq, you've heard of the haqq, don't follow this haqq to be seen of people or that people talk about you. But unfortunately, there are some people who hear of the haqq and they don't really know what it's about. They don't really know what it's about. And this is what one of the ulama have said. He said the parable of an ignorant man who's heard of the religion is like a man, he stands in front of his master. The master's in front of him and he's standing there. The master says to him, stand. He stands. Why is he standing? He doesn't know. Stand. Put your right hand over your left hand. Does it? Fast. Fast. The master says, say I am one. He says, you are one, you are one, you are one, you are one. He repeats it. You are one, you are one. The master says, make your voice beautiful when you say it. And he makes his voice, you are one, you are one, you are one, you are one. Put your hand right hand over the left. Does it? Stop this, go to Makkah. Does it? Come back, stand in front of me again, put your right hand over the left. Say you are one again. This is what is happening with the ignorant slave, with the master who knows khair for him. But the slave remains to be a negligent slave, just mimicking and not knowing what he is doing. No quality. The Shaykh then moves on to how do we gain happiness while we are here? Because the reality of the situation is, we need to be here. But the thing is here that he is drawing a parable of the benefits of the dunya still to the benefits of the akhirah. So every single benefit that you can think that the dunya can give you, the akhirah has much more in its equivalent. It suffices of this life that it is a farm that is harvesting the hereafter. There is a season of worship and there is a season of obedience. Now he's talking about your life, this is the season. And that season will prepare for the fruits that will come out in harvest. Yawm al-Qiyamah. Fudayl, rahimahullah, ibn Iyad said, the Almighty Allah Jalla wa ala made all the evils in a house. This is the parable. We have a house. Every single evil that you can think of is inside that house. And the key to enter the house is the love of the dunya. This is what Fudayl ibn Iyad said from the Salaf. You love the dunya, you will open that door. If you don't want the dunya, you will throw the key away. And he made all the good in a house and made renunciation of the worldly pleasures the key for that house. The same key. How do you use that key? Do you go in or do you throw it away? That same key. And this is what Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah said, that this dunya is actually the foundation, or your belief in Allah and Yawm al-Akhir is actually foundation for the level of the strength and the quality of your deeds, which will then affect your rewards. You have a strong foundation in Allah and belief in Him and His religion, then this will give you a strong building of actions which are pious. And this obviously will give you firmness in the dunya and firmness in the akhirah. If there is no foundation, then there is no akhirah. There is no building, there is no akhirah. If the foundation is weak, then the building will be weak and the akhirah will be weak. Dear brother and sister in Islam, now he is going to talk about the path that you are on. Careful thinking leads man to realize that this life is a journey for which he has to prepare his own baggage. You do your own packing. He also knows that the journey starts from the backbones of fathers to the wombs of mothers and then to life. We talked about this last week. You have no choice. You're being pushed. Every single moment of your life, you're being pushed. Then to the grave and then to the resurrection. We are captives in this life. Can you leave? Do you have a choice to leave? Do you have a choice to have, a break even? So you have to do your best and realize that you are a captive and proceed rapidly to reach liberation. It should be known, though, that the part of the journey that you are in right now, you're only captive for a small period of time. It is evident that a man, during this journey that he is in, he will definitely need provisions. Any kind of journey that you go on, you need provisions. And Allah tells us in the Quran, وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ زَادِ التَّقْوَى. Take your provisions, because the best of provisions that you have to reach your akhirah is obedience of Allah and remaining away from His disobedience. So then the author says, man, therefore, have patience and tolerate the bitterness of piety. It's bitter, it's difficult. And he may even say once he's in transit, "O my Lord, return me back to life. Return me back previously." The answer is a definite no. Everyone who is unmindful should mind his slow pace. You're walking, you should think about how slow you're walking. Allah the Almighty shows man during this journey great signs to make him fear in order that he will not be diverted. You are on the motorway and you see a huge beautiful mountain. Who put that there? It will increase your iman. Allah is going to help you throughout this track. Allah is going to help you throughout this journey. So don't get diverted. But whoever diverts and takes the exit should somehow seek to return and repent and go back on that track. Dear brother and sister, whoever prepares himself for the meeting with Allah and make use of his time to benefit the akhirah, he will be happy not with his wealth or not with his children, but he will be happy with the books of deeds when it will be open in front of him. On this day, hearts will shake and people will look like if they are drunk, falling, incoherent, but they're not drunk. وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ شَدِيدٌ. A poet said, if the soul diverts from the truth, then you will end up rebuking it. If you leave the path, if you leave the journey, you will end up talking bad about it and rebuking it. And he will end up inclining himself to the dunya and rejecting the akhirah. And this is what will happen to your patience. It will be overcome by deception. Your patience will be overcome by deception. And we know that the ulama have said that patience is of three types: worshipping Allah, staying away from the disobedience, and having sabr when something from the qadr of Allah afflicts you. This is the path that you're on. And if you lose this patience, these three aspects of patience, then the deception of the dunya will overcome you. Either in ibadah, either in doing what is right and what is wrong, or either in the level of patience that you should have in what has afflicted you. Whoever, the Shaykh said, whoever desires the life of this world for the worldly pleasures only, will see it abandoning him at the most critical moment. You want the dunya, it's going to abandon you when you need it the most. all of your life you've been working towards it, having a connection with it, having love for it, thinking that it loves you back. But when the Malak al-Maut comes, As-salam, I've got someone else to chase. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah said, the life of this dunya is like a prostitute. What do you do for a prostitute? You want to go to her to relieve yourselves of evil and despicable desires that Allah has made halal for you in many different ways. Wholesome, which will bring you a house and family and secure. But this is just one off moment with somebody who is absolutely despicable. And on top of that, you're going to pay her. طيب. This is the dunya. This woman in front of you is the dunya. You go to her and say, here's the money. But if somebody else comes, what does she do? Take your money back, I'm going with him. What happens? No, come back. You start chasing her. I'll give you more, leave him. Oh, she's a prostitute. She's not pure, she's not clean. This is the parable of the dunya. It will leave you at the most critical moment. You feel that this is the time that I'm going to get what I need, she'll leave you. And whoever desires the life as a means to the hereafter and to paradise, that is as wide as the heavens and the earth. You can choose. Do you want the prostitute or do you want the Hur al-Ain? The pious people are human beings like us. They love the dunya. This is why we've been placed here. It's a test. And there is a level of love that Allah has placed inside human beings. But there's a level of conviction which is different between us and them. How convinced are you of the dunya? If you're overly convinced, you will not leave it. If you're only a little bit convinced, then you may be in between. If you're not convinced at all by this dunya, then you will not. You know that you're only here for a little while. You will only interact with it as much as you need, and you're gone. Yahya ibn Mu'adh rahimahullah said, "Oh man, you seek this life as an imperious need for you. You think that you actually need this dunya so much, whereas the hereafter, you feel that you don't need. I can't see it. I've never heard of it. Some of the things you're saying about this akhirah doesn't even make any sense. How is that possible? However, Allah the Almighty has spared you the efforts as regards to your needs in the life of this world. He has given you as much as you need. And if you seek the hereafter, then you will obtain everything that you need of this life to help you establish yourself in the hereafter. Allah will be with you. And this is why some of the ulama have said that tazkiyah and understanding this topic specifically of the dunya will help you increase in your level of taslim to Allah, your level of submissiveness to Allah. Because now you will realize who created you, why did they create you, and what purpose do you have. Imam al-Tahawi, rahimahullah, the famous author of the Aqidah, he said, don't ask why Allah has told me to do this. Ask, how can I do this? Don't ask why Allah has told me to pray 5 times a day. Ask, how can I pray 5 times? It's maslahah for you. Taslim will purify your heart. Don't ask how fast you are moving on to the akhirah, but ask how long do you have left. The Prophet ﷺ, dear brother and sister, the Shaykh has said, it is astonishing that a man who believes in the home of the akhirah, he says he believes in the akhirah, but he turns away from it and he seeks the life of the dunya. But when Allah loves a man, He protects him from the life of the dunya and He gives him the akhirah. Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna Allah lam yakhluq khalqan abghad ilay min ad-dunya." There is nothing that Allah has created that He hates more than the dunya. You want a nice house, you want a nice car, you combine the whole dunya in one man, Allah will still not be pleased with it. أبغض إليه من الدنيا وإنه منذ خلقها لم ينظر إليها. From the moment that Allah has created the dunya, He's never looked at it ever again. Not looking in the sense of decree, but looking in the sense of veneration. Hadith. This is why Allah says in the Quran, in many different places that we said last time, that the mushrikun and those people who cling on to the dunya, this is the reason for their humiliation and punishment in the akhirah. They didn't understand the dunya. وَيْلٌ لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَأْتُونَ الزَّكَاةِ. Punishment is for them because they didn't give zakat. Like we said last time, zakat here now, with some of the ulama, refers to purification. But there's many different ayat like this also. Shumayt ibn Ajlan, rahimahullah, from the Salaf, he said he used to say to people, two people are tormented in this life. You see a man, one of these two people are tormented in this life. A rich man who is given a great amount of wealth, so he becomes busy with the dunya. We see this man every single day. But another person who's being punished in this dunya is a poor man who is deprived and is heartbroken because of the dunya. This is punishment, this is adab for this person. He has no tazkiyah. He doesn't realize why he's here. He doesn't give the dunya its true status. Many people dispraise the life of this world and consider it as the main reason of distraction for obedience. They don't want to come to the masjid, they don't want to pray salah, they don't want to obey Allah because of the dunya. It's distracting them. However, the dunya is needed as your passage for the akhirah. Imam al-Awza'i has a very long statement here. I don't want to quote all of it. But he's telling us one thing. He said that your home is here, but your stay is very short. Look at those people that came before you. They were very big nations. Allah talked about them over again in the Quran. They lived longer than you, and they were stronger than you, and they enjoyed more splendor than you. They were stronger than you. Allah says in the Quran that He has not given us as mankind right now, from the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, مَا بَلَغُوا مِعْشَارٍ مَا آتَيْنَاهُمْ مَا بَلَغُوا مِعْشَارٍ. Mi'shar is a tenth. In the birth and tafsir of this ayah, you have not even been given a tenth of the splendor or the strength, not the splendor, the strength, the life that those people before have been given. They were stronger in their bodies, they lived longer than you, they used to carry heavy rocks, they used to make houses out of mountains. They did many difficult things that we, from the Ummah of Muhammad, are impossible to do. Nevertheless, Imam al-Awza'i, rahimahullah, he's saying this, the passing of the days and the nights are being rolled up in all of the generations of the Ummah of Muhammad. Right now, villages are being destroyed. They were there yesterday, but they're not there anymore without any trace. And you don't find even a whisper. Dear brother and sister, desiring the hereafter and renouncing the life of this world can only be perfected if you have two things. How do I leave the dunya, my brother? You're saying, okay, this is all very well and good. The Shaykh rahimahullah said there's two things. Number one, having said all this, is repeating himself, that you realize that the dunya is a life of heartbreaks, worldly pleasures is going to go, ends in sorrow, there's distress, etc. But in a nutshell, you realize that this dunya is not perfect. Realize this. In fact, it's far from perfect. And perfection is only for Allah. And this is why the greatest ayah in the Quran is Ayatul Kursi, because you are signifying the perfection of Allah over and over again. So Ibn Taymiyyah said, rahimahullah. But if you look at mankind, you start off something which is young and weak, and then you return to something which is weak. You start off as not knowing anything, and you end up being senile and not knowing anything. Needing support, this is the nature of man. This is the nature of the dunya also. It was a lump of flesh, and it will become a lump of flesh. You were a lump of flesh in your womb. Anybody seen a janazah before? It's like a bag of meat, a lump of flesh. Heavy, lump of flesh, just flops. But the problem is that many people, they don't realize, this is the physical aspect of it, but they don't realize the stages of innocence to perversion, to bad manners, to evil hobbies that people go through in their life. To the extent that even practicing people are tested by this. You start off as innocent, pure, upon the fitrah. Your parents, if they did a good job, they made you hafiz the Quran, you come to the masjid, perversion kicks in, bad manners kick in. Slowly, you become indulged in evil hobbies. This is the dunya, this is what the dunya does for you. And this is what the Shaykh is saying here. We need to give dunya its true manzila. But brother, some of these things I have no control over. When I see it, I just feel like I want it. Happened to us, happens to every single one of us probably. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said that every single thing that is created depends on Allah. And that dependency shows how weak it is. You need food, you need drink, you need to sleep. That thing in front of you is not perfect. But what's more ajib is that human beings, what we do to ourselves and our connection to the dunya, is we plaster that. So, you have an attraction to a woman. When she wakes up in the morning, she smells foul. She looks disgusting. Then she goes to the bathroom to relieve herself. Then she needs to go downstairs, and maybe she's cranky and she's treating you in a bad way. She needs to eat. This is the dunya. This is the one that you were infatuated and she trapped you in. Not her, nothing to do with her, like we said before. It's not the creation of Allah is the problem. Humans have to cover, the dunya itself has to cover its ugly parts. She does this on a daily basis to make the dunya, to keep the cycle of the love of the dunya going. If you lived in a garbage, what do they call it? Where they bury the food, the skip? Landfill. If you live in a landfill and the whole world is a landfill, which is the haqiqah of it, like Ibn Taymiyyah said, it's reality, would you have any longing for this landfill? No, you think that your Lord, the Creator, has created something which is better than this, and I've been put here for a particular reason. This is the haqiqah. But what happens is the landfill comes and it covers the garbage. And then you're back to, this is a nice place. Maybe we should make a house, settle down. Then the skip comes again. The more you venerate it, the more you put it on the pedestal, the more you will love it. The more you degrade it for what it actually is, the foul smells, the imperfection in its creation, the makeup that it has to put on to make it cover the aib, then you will realize that this dunya is nothing. The second thing that you need to protect yourself from falling into the love of the dunya is to have thorough consideration of your place in the hereafter. The Shaykh is saying, sit down and think about this properly. Where are you going? Forget about your kids, forget about your job, forget about the car problems that you have, the finance problems where are you going? It's inevitable, it's going to happen. What's going to happen to me? Is it going to be bliss? Is it going to be happiness? Or is it not? The author says, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. If you realize this, then you will know that the akhirah is better than where you are right now. And it is everlasting. The Shaykh then moves on to talk about a parable, a fiqhi parable, if you like, where he says that when you have a guest come to your house, the ulama, the majority of the ulama have said that it is wajib for you to look after this guest for 1 day and 1 night. Beyond that, 3 days and 3 nights is mustahab. And this is the opinion of the majority of the ulama. Ibn Mas'ud said, rahimahullah, radiyallahu anhu, the life of this world, everyone is a guest in. And the possessions that you have is a loan that's given to you. You will soon be asked to depart as a guest, and the loan will be taken back. What's that got to do with 3 days? Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh is talking about guests. The ulama have said the guests have a haqq of you for 1 day or 3 days. Live in this life as if you're here for 1 day or 3 days. A dain, if somebody gives you a dain, you make an agreement. Maybe you might not have to make an agreement. I say, here's £1,000, pay me whenever you want. Khalas. The Prophet ﷺ said, Matul ghani haram. If he is able to pay me back, even tomorrow, even if we've agreed a long period of time, okay, if we've agreed, that's different. But if he's able to pay me back, and I need the money, and I say to you, give me the money back, and he's got the money to pay me, dhulm. Matul ghani, dhulm. And you can even, some of the ulama say, you can take it to court, you can take that money back forcefully. Different ahkam. The point here is, you're a guest, 3 days maximum. You've got a loan, you have to pay it back in a very short period of time. Dear brother and sister, look to the years that passed away before you and the lifespan that you've had that has passed you. And think about how quickly it's gone. It's filled with happiness, it's filled with sorrow, it's filled with sweetness, it's filled with bitterness. But everything that's left you and everything that's got to come, you're going to be asked about. This is profound, my brothers. Why? If I asked you now, brother, you're 50, 60 years old, can you summarize your life for me? How long will it take you? 5 minutes? Maybe if this person is an influential person, they'll have a series for 7 hours, 8 hours. We sleep for 8 hours. His life has been summarized, this giant of a idol celebrity, summarized for 8 hours. That's the life. Think what's past you, think what you've got left. You know what's past you, that's certain. You know what's past you, that's certain. That's 8 hours maximum. Some of us, maybe a few minutes. Yeah? I was born in 2000, I went to this school, now I'm going to secondary school. That's it. That's what I have to say about the dunya. That is certain. But death is more certain than that. You know you have 8 hours worth of biography. Do you know how much time you've got left to death? Death is much more certain than what you have passed by. Death is much more certain than that you have passed by. One of the Salaf said, beware of the life of this dunya, because it is sihr. The life of this dunya, it is sihr, magic. And this magic is much more effective than the magic of Harut and Marut. The magic of Harut and Marut separated a man from his wife. The magic of this dunya will separate you from your Lord. Is there sihr in Jannah? Impossible. Is there sihr in dunya? Allah decreed it. Shows you. Dear brother and sister, we collect money to attain happiness, we build palaces, we want to have this reside in our hearts. Many people have attempted all of the ways to gain any kind of happiness from the dunya. But the real happiness is in obeying Allah and drawing close to Him. The Shaykh says, dear brother and sister, you should know that the life of this world is like a dream or a transient shade. The shade is going to go. That's the title of the book. It's a dream. It's an imagination. You've dreamt it for 8 hours. What do you recall of it? Maybe a few seconds. When you wake up, you tell your wife, I saw this dream, and just remember this one little bit. This is the dunya. It causes someone to laugh a little, but they will weep a lot. It causes a lot of pleasure for days and weeks and months and years, but for eternity there is sorrow. It allows the pleasures for a person to engage in them in a short time, but then be deprived for a very, very long time. Dear brother and sister, the measure is very clear. And the difference is very obvious. The measure is clear. Jannah or Jahannam, and the difference is obvious. One day in the hereafter equals to 1,000 years in the life of this world. And the ulama have said that the 1,000 years, كَأَلْفِ سَنَةٍ مِمَّا تَعُدُّونَ, is not 24 hours. It's just so that you can understand, because there is no time in Jannah. It's everlasting. But just so that you can understand that this would be the equivalent. And one has to work for the purpose of both the life of this world and the hereafter. But each one has to be given its degree of importance. Right? Islam wants good for you. The Shaykh is mentioning that. Islam wants you to engage in the dunya. It's not completely eradicating. That's not the purpose of the book. But, dear brother and sister, if a man desires to know how important he is in the eyes of his king, he should look into the work he has done for the sake of that king. Is he standing in front of his king with his hand right over left, saying, "Oh Allah, you're one, you're one, you're one, you're one"? And what does that mean? He remains in his ignorance. Shaddad ibn Amr from the Salaf, rahimahullah, the hereafter is a true promise where a powerful king will judge between the people. The life of this world is full of vanities that are above or available for both the pious and the sinner. Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith in Muslim Ahmad, يُعْتَ اللَّهُ الدُّنْيَا لِمَنْ يُحِبْ وَمَنْ لَا يُحِبْ. One dunya, he'll give it to you, whether you're a believer or not a believer, Muslim or kafir. وَلَا يُؤْتِ الدِّينَ إِلَّا لِمَنْ يُحِبْ. He'll only give you the true understanding of your place in the dunya except if he loves you. That's why the world of this life is full of vanities. You can get it. If you want to be pious, if you want to be a sinner, it's all fake, cosmetics. There is no plea for him who hears and then disobeys. You meet Allah, you've heard, and then you disobeyed. Where did you hear? You heard in the dunya. Where did you disobey? You disobeyed in the. And there's no plea against him who hears and obeys. How did he use the dunya? He went and he heard. He went and he obeyed. Don't take the life of this world as a valuable thing because it spares none. Like we said before, when you need it the most, it will leave you. Don't think that this dunya is going to benefit you. Don't think that this dunya is actually there to help you. And at the same time, don't reject it because the hereafter can only be attained through the life of the dunya. Look how difficult this key is now that you have in your hand. Do you enter? Sometimes you feel like you want to enter. Sometimes the window looks very tempting, but at the same time you want to throw the key down. Ubayd ibn Umar, last point, rahimahullah, Ubayd ibn Umar said, whoever has a great wealth will have a severe reckoning, and whoever has numerous followers will have an equal number of shayateen, and whoever is close to a ruler will be remote from Allah. He said this after he said, the Shaykh, if a man wants to know how important you are with your king, it's not about you saying you love Allah. It's about if Allah loves you. Is your love, are your actions accepted with Allah? This is the question. Ubayd ibn Umar rahimahullah said, whoever has a great deal of wealth, then he will be severe in reckoning because he has loved it. He's clung on to it. He's thought himself to be superior because of it. He's become proud because of it. And whoever has numerous followers following him in sin, following in him in showing off, following in, then he will have these same shayateen with him Yawm al-Qiyamah when he stands in front of Allah. And whoever is close to a ruler will be distance from Allah. This is what we're living in today, my brother. These three aspects is exactly what we're living in today. Great wealth, have the latest technology, otherwise you'll be a weirdo. Have the latest account, otherwise you're seen as a misfit. Cars are being thrown at you now. You want a car, we'll give you the car. Just take it. Pay us back whenever. You want a house, pay us back whenever. You want education, pay us back whenever. Take the dunya, please, take it from us. These people have a severe reckoning. But again, we're not saying that these people who used it properly. We're talking about people who didn't use it properly, who didn't obtain it properly, who didn't use it for the pleasure of Allah. Those people who have numerous followers. This is a razand in itself, I think. People who go on to social media and hours are being spent following these people who have become famous because they've committed some of the major sins that Allah is angered with. It's the only reason why he's famous. Doesn't bring any khair to society. Doesn't do any good. It's just cosmetics. How does he or she look today? They've got 10, 15, 100 million followers. Let's follow them as well. They will be gathered with their numerous followers with the shayateen. And whoever is close to power, wants power, will be remote from Allah. Ask Allah to make us of those who work for the akhirah and enable us to see the dunya for what it is, and that He accepts it from us and gives us the best of stations in the akhirah. And for us and our families, and that we're united, not that we go saved and our family members are left indulging in the dunya. Allah save us all and make our houses the arks of Nuh, and make us firm until we meet Him. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بإذن الله next week we'll finish the book inshallah.